Hey hatchlings, it's Dragonfeather and welcome back to the channel, and on today's episode I have my top 5 favorite crafts to start the new year for you guys. Anyone can try these, some are easier than others, but for today we will be making a mini altar besom, a New Year's resolution spell bag, a protection charm jar necklace, as well as some positivity gemstone elixir, and a little mini spell book to keep all of your details inside. However, before we jump on into the video, let's take the time to say thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Pagans and Witches Amino. And Amino is an app for your iOS or Android device that has all sorts of communities that you could think of. Pagans and Witches happens to be the largest Amino community for us pagans and witches out there. So let us jump on inside and take a look. So here is the featured feed, and all of the best curated posts within Pagans and Witches will end up here as they're posted, and you can look through them to learn a little bit more about them. So don't forget to check in so you can earn some extra reputation points. It helps you level up. Here's my profile on Pagans and Witches Amino, and as you can tell, all of my blog posts for my videos are here as well, and you can catch this video as an in-depth blog post that will include step-by-step instructions for all of the crafts we made. And for those of you guys who go into Pagans and Witches, make your own blog post using my tutorial with the hashtag DIY New Year's Crafts. I will be following every one of you guys and giving you a shout out in my next video. How exciting! Also, these are the chats here. It's my favorite feature, so don't forget to go join one. Here, let's just check out the Draconic Witches chat, which of course is one of my favorites, because it's a great place to meet like-minded individuals who are interested in Draconic Magic, Draconic Wicca, Draconic Witchcraft, and the Draconic Path. And here, if you look in the description, there are some fun activities for all of the members to do inside, to gain more knowledge, to get to know each other a little bit, and to have some fun. So don't forget to check out my blog post in Pagans and Witches Amino. So for our first craft of the day, we'll be making a protection charm jar necklace. You'll need a mini charm jar for this, as well as all the ingredients you want to put inside. This is up to you, but I'm using black salt, hot foot powder, dragon's blood, garnet, tiger's eye, and onyx crystal chips for today's video. You'll also need a needle and a head pin to create the charm jar part of the cork, and you'll need a chain, some rings, and a hook to actually make it into a necklace. So let's start by filling up our jar. I started with the black salt, now moving on to the hot foot powder, and the hot foot powder is something that can be used for protection, can be used for baneful magic as well, but I sincerely love the look of the powder that I made. So the dragon's blood incense is just little tiny dried resin pieces. Wanted to fit as many of those as I could in there because I feel like dragon's blood is extra protective. So next we have our crystal chips, and just gonna go and put those in there. I'm using 3 little crystal chips of each for 9 little crystal chips total, and they are just to top off our protection jar. So after you've got all of those little guys in there, tap it a little bit to make sure all the things settle into place, and now we will be making our charm jar necklace, which means we gotta turn this into a charm. So we're going to take our needle and stick it through the cork, and you're going to do this as centered as possible. It can be a little bit difficult sometimes, so just be patient with it, as you might need to fidget with this quite a bit, but go ahead and slowly push it in, making sure that you do not poke yourself, because oh my goodness, does it hurt when it happens. Now that the needle is through the cork, we are going to stick the head pin in its place, and you're just going to try and push the head pin through where the needle made the hole, so you can pull the head pin all the way through to the other side like so, making it a perfect way for a charm. Now cut off the excess, use some needle nose pliers, and this will help you make that little loop hole at the top so we can stick a metal ring to make it a necklace, charm jar necklace. And again, this does take some time. It's all about getting it right, bending it as much as you can so you can get as close and tight of a fit as possible with the ring at the top, because the last thing you want is your charm jar necklace to fall off of your necklace. Now, that wouldn't make sense, would it? So make sure you got that head pin in a nice circle before we add some extra stuff to it. Now, I know you're probably annoyed by how much that took you, but I promise it is well worth it. take a little ring, put your clasp of choice and your chain to it. This is starting to create the necklace part of the actual necklace. So once you got the chain and the hook on, go ahead and close up that little metal ring there until it is nice, snug, and tight, so there is no chance of losing any of the bits that we have attached to it. Again, it's a fidgety process, but have some patience and it will go a long way in your crafting endeavors. So next, we are putting the cork inside. You can choose to glue it if you want. You don't have to glue it. I choose not to, but if you want to, it helps make it more secure. So then take another one of those metal rings and close it at the top. This is going to be the ring for the chain to go through, where your necklace will sit on for you. And now we thread the necklace. So here we have the chain that we made previously, and after we have threaded on our necklace, go ahead and add the last ring to the other end, and this is going to be the ring that your clasp will connect to, like so. So once you have that done, you are done with your first craft. Look how wonderful and fancy smanchy that is. Wear her whenever you want to be safe, and you will be good to go. For our next craft, we'll be making our pine altar besom. Now you'll need some dried pine needles, some paint, a paintbrush, a stick that is sturdy enough, some string, wire, crafting materials such as rings, a head pin, and whatever beads and charms of choice you want. Now first we're going to start off by painting the pine needles a little hint of gold. So I have some gold paint here and I'm just trying to roughly paint them so when they catch in the light you'll have that gold little shimmer. It adds a lot of character to the pine besom because it's not just plain old drying pine needles. You got a little bit of something in there, and as you can tell, there's a little tiny sparkle and shimmer. Next, I'm going to be painting my twig or stick black for the handle of the altar besom. You can do whatever colors you want. Really, this is up to you right now. This is for your craft, for your fun, and I just really like this color scheme as it matches my autumn altar in the background. So we're gonna kind of go with that for the video, but remember, you do you, girl, you do you. So here we have the pine needles. Once they're dried and we want to collect them and make them straight as possible, you can choose to put the little like buds of the pine needles at the top if you want. It takes some time if you want to be meticulous enough, but it's not necessary. Just make sure it's all straight to where you can stick your handle into it while holding it. And then we wrap with the crafting string. This string you can get at any crafting store and is what is used most commonly to make like friendship bracelets. Me personally, I love using it for making wands and besoms. As you can see, once it's wrapped around, it holds it pretty well. So tie it off for the first one, and for the first color, we're going to be using the most string just because you got to wrap it around, make sure it's extra secure and thick, so there's no little bits of the pine needles poking through where you have decided to wrap it. Afterwards, cut off the excess and pick your different color if you want to choose other colors. This time I'm going with like a wine red burgundy color, and we're just going to wrap that over the brown a little bit. Not too terribly much because again, we don't want it to overpower the brown, but we want just enough poking through to where you can see both colors. Tie it off to secure it, and then lastly we will be adding one more color after we snip off the excess. So this is like a shimmery champagne color, like a beige if you will, and we'll be adding the least amount of this color just so you can see the rest of the colors poking through to give it a little bit extra character, so it's not just one color. It adds a little bit more depth and flair to the bezel, if you will. So once again, we are cutting off the excess, tying it down, securing it in place, making sure she is all nice and sturdy so we can add the charm jar ring to it. The charm ring. This is for our handmade charm to attach to, and we're going to wrap it with the wire, first we're going to stick it through one side so it loops, then go around, stick it through the side, and go back behind it. And I don't really know how to explain it so well, but I hope that you can tell what I'm saying from the video on screen. And once you got the ring secured, we're just going to wrap as many times as we can with the wire, not to overpower the string behind it, but just to add a little bit extra flair and make sure that ring is not going anywhere, because that is where our charm will be attached to. So tuck the wires away when you are finished wrapping. This is probably going to be the most fidgety part of crafting the besom, but once you have it tucked in, it'll be nice and fabulous, clean and fresh, without any places to accidentally poke yourself. Now, we are going to assemble the charm. Take a head pin and add whatever little elements you want to. For your besom, I'm adding a piece of aura quartz. This is a little red jingle bell that I'm obsessed with from the jingle bells that I used in my Winter Wonderland collection, and they are absolutely darling and perfect for charms, and add that wonderful element of sound that I think really helps with the cleansing properties of the besom anyway. So just adding some extra beads that I found matched this theme, and just assembling them as follows so we can make that wonderful little charm sit on top of our broom or besom, whatever you want to call it. Once you're finished, cut off the excess and turn it into a ring using needle nose pliers. Again, it might take you a little bit to fix this properly, but you want to make sure that there's no holes for any of the materials to escape. You want a nice, generous hole at the top so you can fit in the extra ring to attach it to the besom itself. But when you're finished, it should look a little something like this, ready to go for the rest of the tutorial. Oh my gosh, look how cute that charm is. Don't you want to just love it? I adore it. So we're going to take that metal ring, we're going to open it, we're going to add the charm to it like so, and then we're going to attach it to that metal ring on the outside of the besom, and then close it up to seal the charm in place. And it is kind of difficult. Make sure you're very gentle when doing this, because the besoms are a little bit fragile since they're made out of pine needles and sticks. So once you have that all closed up, you are done. Your little besom is ready to go, and you can use it to cleanse your altar space whenever you desire. Don't forget to snip off the extra little pine needles that do not belong, and once you have done so, your besom will be perfect and ready for all of your needs, and can be the perfect addition to your altar or wherever you need to go. So here you are. Isn't it adorable? Perfect. Just letting it chill and sweet the bullshit. For our third craft, we'll be making our Positivity Gemstone Elixir. Now you'll need a glass bottle with this. Any glass bottle will do. You can use one with a cork. This is what I had on hand and will match my altar, so this is what we will be using. So first we're going to fill it up with water. I recommend using distilled water, purified water, any sort of water that you can get your hands on that is clean and fresh for you to drink. First, add a clear quartz crystal point to amplify all the energy of all the rest of the stones, and we'll be adding the most of citrine first. Now this is for that positive sunshiny vibe to charge it up. Next we'll be adding green aventurine, and this is to keep us grounded, to keep us growing, and to keep us prosperous whenever we use this, and add that in there as you go. And next we'll be using rose quartz for self-love and all of those good warm fuzzy vibes, and more clear quartz to amplify the energies of everything else. You can chant something over this or with each element you add in. Just make sure that the elements you are adding are good for you to consume if you intend to do so. If not, use it on whatever you want. Use whatever you want inside of it, and add a drop of this whenever you need to feel a little bit of a lift. our most challenging craft of today's video, we will be making a spell book to keep all of our notes for the new year. And to start, we'll be making the pages. So we use standard computer paper and fold it in half like so. Then we're going to tear down the middle and repeat the folding process until we get the desired page shape for our mini spell book. After we fold it in half, we'll tear it again, and we are almost there, folding it in half one more time for the last tear of the page. And after we have teared it that final time, we have our page size. So go ahead and fold that in half and you will have your page size. So you're going to make 9 bundles of 3 of these and then dye them however you want, in a mason jar, in a plastic bag, however it works best for you. Use it whatever you want. And next we'll be painting the cover to dry. So I'm using red, purple, and blue for this cover, and these felt like some good new colors to try and make a book with, since I've never used them like so for this, and it felt fitting as it's for the new year, of course. So go ahead and paint it however makes you happy, and then leave it to dry in either outside. You can use a hairdryer to make it go faster, but once it is dry, we are going to flip it over and paint the other side. So I wanted to have a slightly different color on the inside of the book, so we had some variety and a pop of color when we opened our spell book. So I'm going to just add the same cover colors randomly throughout the cover and just make sure we have a good chunk of paint on here to fill the entire cover. Now once you have all of your paint, go ahead and paint it together however you desire. And I just wanted to make sure that these colors got mixed as much as possible, since this was more of like a mixed version of all the colors on the front. And I'm adding some white on here as well to get that pop of color on the inside and just make all the colors on the inside of the book a little bit like more of a pastel than they were on the cover. So when we open that, it has that nice pop to make the cover really stand out. Moving forward, we have our pages all fully dried, dyed, and ready to be stitched in. Now, like I said, you can make your pages however you want, but this is the amount that you should have when you are ready to make your book. If you do not have a sewing machine, you can reference my tutorial DIY journal or how to make a book of shadows to hand stitch your pages. This works so much better, so if you have a sewing machine, it can go nice and quickly for you. But if not, no worries, you can hand stitch in the pages and, using your intentions, bind each page with New Year goals, whatever you want to use this book for. And if you use the sewing machine, once you are done, you're going to have a mess of thread and extra fabric. So go ahead and tie off those extra threads, cut the excess off, and then cut the excess of the fabric off to get your base cover. This is what it should look like after all of that is done. And we are coming together here. I know, it's kind of endeavorous, this book is, but I promise you'll absolutely enjoy it if you make one yourself. Now we move on to the buttonholes. We're going to be using 2 little white buttons. So we'll start with the top one, and I use this by sticking a needle through the front so I can see where I want the button for sure. And then I wiggle the needle around to make sure the hole is nice and big. Holding it up to the light from the other side, I stick my thread in so the knot is on the back of the cover instead of the front of the cover, and then stitch my button accordingly. I like to go through 3 times to make sure the button is absolutely secure. So once you have your button in the right place, go ahead and stitch 3 times to secure it into place, making sure that your button is snug and is not going to come off when you use it and wiggle it a little bit, because it will be used. So you want it to be steady, you want it to be sturdy, and you want it to be reliable. After you have your button stitched in, you're going to stick your needle through one of the loops on the back to secure the button in place by making a knot. And the way I do this is stick my needle through the extra little bits from the back, pull through so I have a loop, and then stick the needle through the center of the loop and pull to make a knot. I do this 3 times each, so the button is nice and secure, and when you're done, remove the excess. Repeat for the other button, and now it's time to make the buttonholes. So what I do is once my buttons are stitched in, I take my cover and I press around the button, so as you can tell the cover has a little bit of an indent where the buttons are. That's just kind of an example for me, so I know 100% that the buttonholes are going in those locations. So once you have that folded, cut your buttonhole however you desire. This might take a quick minute to make sure that you have the right size, but go ahead and do your best to get the buttonholes on both sides as symmetrical, as similar as possible. And when you're done cutting the buttonhole, just pull the button through to make sure that it indeed does work and that it lines up as well. So we have the first button done. Now we're just going to get the second button finished, and make sure that you can put both buttons through and make the cover line up with each other once you have the buttons on, and then your buttons are there. Now we're going to paint the binding, just because all that extra stitching, we don't really want to see it. So whatever color you want to paint the binding or to match the cover, it's up to you. The limits are endless for your creative endeavors. So once we have the cover painted, we're going to paint the outside highlights and the buttonhole highlights. And this is just to give the book a really nice finish and to make sure that any of those extra bits that may not have been painted all the way are not poking through, and just to kind of seal the edges since it is a little unfinished if you do not paint it on the outside. Wait for her to dry, and now we will be attaching her charm. Now we're going to take a needle where we want the charm and poke it through a couple times. This is to make a hole in the cover binding area so you can actually stick the ring through it once you've gotten the needle through a couple times. It might take a few times if you want to stick the needles through, but once you got it, go ahead and take a metal ring and open her up so you can poke her through. And it might take some fidgeting, might take you quite some time to get this through, but if you're persistent using needle nose pliers, you can pierce your book with a ring and then later on attach the charm to it to make it even cuter and more fancy. Now we shall assemble the charm for this book. You'll need a head pin for this and whatever charms and beads and things of your desire. We added some titanium aura quartz to the bottom of this one, and we added another one of those bells to make that red on the cover really pop. We got a purple little sphere. It's like a little glass cracked bead, and then we have another little red bead and a diamond shaped blue bead, another one of those red beads, and then some little blue seed beads to top it off for our charm. And once all of those little beads are on there and ready to go, it is time to finalize this charm. So cut off the excess little wire at the top of it to make that ring hole again like we did for the altar bezel. Again, this is kind of a fidgety process, but you got this. I believe in you, homie. Just keep going. You can't give up, you know what I'm saying? So turn it as much as you can, get it as snug as you can, get it as closed as you can, because you do not want this charm falling off of your book, now do you? So once you have that good hole there, making sure that it is all snug, no possible way for any of the materials to come undone, we can go ahead and add that ring there, and then we will attach it to the outside hook of the book. And once you close up that ring, you are done. Your book is all ready to go for the new year, and it is entirely handmade if you want to enjoy it for yourself, because who doesn't want a handmade book that they made? For our last craft of today's video, we will be making a New Year's resolutions spell bag. Now this is something that we will put in elements that symbolize to us what we want to accomplish in our new year, and we'll keep it with us whenever we want to stay inspired and on the path to completing those goals. So as always, I started with some black salt for protection. I want to feel safe and grounded in the new year, so that is why I included it. Next, I'm adding some dragon's blood to keep my dragon friends close to me as always, and also for some extra protection. Here we have some runes. You can add some runes of your own if you like. We also have one that says pro, because I want to be a pro in the new year, and one had a money symbol, because we need that money, girl. Want to get that money, honey. So moving forward, I'm putting some decorative moss in there to symbolize growth and green and wealth for the new year for me, as I certainly would like to be more financially stable and grow. Next, I'm adding in some little mini colored pencils so I can stay creative and artistic in the new year. I absolutely love creating and I love making art, so I want my art to really be expanded this year and always wonderful and creative. Next, I have some little metal charms that are like symbols of music notes and stuff, and a little jingle bell to symbolize music, as I want my music to be at the forefront of what I do for the new year. And almost done, I wanted to add some crystals to top it off, but using some peacock ore for joy and positivity and just happiness in general, some obsidian for protection, and some citrine for positivity and success. Now I'm gonna add all those in there and make sure that my life in the new year is full of abundance. Now, you can add whatever you want. You can even include a little scroll that includes your goals on it as well, and then when the year is over, you can see if you met those goals. But tighten it off and you can take it with you anywhere that you want to achieve your goals. To participate in the DIY crafting extravaganza on Pagans and Witches Amino, just click the link in the description or pinned YouTube comment down below and follow the prompts to download Amino for free. It's exciting on iOS or Android. You can download Amino by searching your app store, then searching for Pagans and Witches once you're in, but remember, you can find me there by searching my username, Azura Dragonfeather, which is the same as my channel here on YouTube. Other than that, that's all I have for you guys today on our top 5 crafts for the new year. I do hope you enjoy it. I do hope you'll check me out over on Amino, and as always, stay geeky, cheeky, and freaky, little hatchlings! But until next time, blessed be and bye, my loves. Mwah.